This is the biology first semester exam. You can scroll and rewind as many times as you need to hear the question. Answer all your questions on the grade cam sheet. First question. A student soaked 50 lima bean seeds and 50 green bean seeds in water for 24 hours. Then she planted the seeds in soil at a depth of 2 centimeters using the same amount of water, light, and heat for each kind of seed. She measured every 3 days to determine which type of seed grew the fastest. The paragraph describes A, an observation, B, a hypothesis, C, an experiment, D, a conclusion. Question 2. A lab activity requires students to insert potassium hydroxide, KOH pellets, into a narrow tube to absorb carbon dioxide, CO2. Pellets of KOH are very caustic and alkaline. Which is the safest way to put the pellets into the tube? A. Use a forceps, tweezers, to transfer the pellets. B. Use fingers to transfer the pellets. C. Pour pellets directly from the supply bottle. D. Handle the pellets with paper towels. Number 3. A scientist wants to study the behavior of bald eagles. Which of these plans should be used to study the hunting habits of bald eagles? A. Analyze the eagles at the zoo for several months. B. Research hawks and make inferences about eagles. C. Observe eagles along the Potomac River in Virginia for a year. D. Ask a park ranger questions about eagles. Question 4. A researcher discovers 2 populations of birds that are similar. The 2 populations live in habitats that are different. What evidence might suggest to the researcher that the birds belong to a different species rather than the same species? A. The birds of the 2 populations sometimes feed in different locations. B. The birds of 2 populations have different mating behaviors. C. The 2 populations of birds feed at different times of the day. D. Some birds appear to be hybrids of birds in the 2 populations. Question 5. Which of these would be the best conclusion regarding the experimental results shown? So we have plant growth in centimeters on the left, and temperature on the bottom. A. The tallest this species of plant will ever grow is 50 centimeters. B. The species of plant grew best between 18 degrees Celsius and 26 degrees Celsius. Question C. The ideal temperature for plant growth is 26 degrees Celsius. D. Plants do not grow above 26 degrees Celsius. Number 6. Biologists survey 4 islands in a chain near a continent. They identified species found on the mainland and those of a species that were unique to each island. Based on these results, which island is probably the furthest from the mainland? So we have island species distribution. The islands, number of species in common with the mainland, number of species unique to the island. Island 1, 82 different, 2 are unique. Island 2, 16 are different, 84 are unique. Island 3, 4 are in common, 98 are unique. Island 4, 53 are in common, 11 are unique. So is the answer Island 3, B, Island 4, C, Island 2, or D, Island 1? The table indicates the number of amino acids that differ in the amino acid sequence of a hemoglobin from a selected organism when compared to human hemoglobin. On the basis of this information, which organism would be classified as most closely related to humans? So we have amino acid differences compared to human hemoglobin, species, and amino acid difference. Lamprey has 25 differences, frog has 67 differences, dog has 32 differences, macaque has 8 differences. Is it A, a dog, B, a lamprey, C, a macaque, or D, a frog? Number 8. Which of this is an important function of cell structure in this model? We got the fluid mosaic model, proteins, phospholipids, cholesterol molecules, and proteins. A, packaging cell products for export. B, transferring hereditary material of offspring. C, preventing a cell from bursting due to osmosis. D, controlling passage of materials. Question 9. Fossil records can be studied to determine how organisms change through time. Which of the following methods for studying organisms could least likely be accomplished by studying the fossil record? A. Dating organisms by relative order of their fossils. B. Comparing sleep patterns of organisms. C. Comparing when extinction of species occurred. Or D. Comparing homologous structures of organisms. Which is the name of structure 3? Cell structures and function. So we got structure 1 does protein synthesis. Structure 2 does support. Structure 3 controls cell functions. Structure 4 storage of water, waste, and food. Is it A. A vacuole, B. Cell wall, C. Ribosome, or D. Nucleus? Many ocean jellyfish have body surfaces that are permeable to water but not to salt. What would happen if jellyfish were placed in an environment with lower concentration of salt than in their bodies? A. It would lose protein into the water. B. It would lose salt into the water. C. It would gain nutrients from the water and the environment. Or D. It would gain water from the environment. 12. Viruses are made up of either DNA or RNA surrounded by a coating of protein. If broken down, what are the building blocks that form these molecules? A. Amino acids and nucleotides. B. Fatty acids and amino acids. C. Fatty acids and glycerol. D. Amino acids and simple sugars. 13. About 70 years ago, cane toads were introduced to Australia. The toads are toxic to some species of snakes, such as Dendrophilus punctulatus. The longer the individual snake is, the greater its chance of survival after eating a cane toad. Which of the following did scientists most likely observe in D. punctulatus snake population as a result of the presence of cane toads? A. The entire population is killed by toads. B. The entire population becomes resistant to toads. C. The average body length of the population increased. D. The average body length of the population decreased. 14. In a student experiment, 4 earthworms were placed at each end of a compartment as shown. After 10 minutes, all the earthworms were together in the same area. The students concluded the earthworms had moved as far as they could in that time period. Which alternative explanations also supported? So we have our earthworm experiment in which at the beginning, the initial, we have 4 on each side, temperatures listed at the bottom. After 10 minutes, the earthworms end up in the middle, and the temperatures are at the bottom. So what are the alternative things? It is at A, the earthworm preferred to be in protected corners. B, earthworms needed to be with other earthworms for warmth. C, earthworms moved to their preferred temperature range. D, earthworms move randomly until they are grouped together. 15. The main reason that eating salty foods makes a person thirsty is the additional fluid is needed to A, prevent damage to the lining of the throat. B, maintain fluid balance in the cells. C, dissolve salt crystals in the stomach. D, increase the salt concentration in the blood. 16. Which of the following units would be most appropriate to measure the volume of a can of Coke? A, mg, B, ml, C, g, or D, l. 17. Cells of plant and an animal are being studied. Which of these would be found in both of these cells? A, cilia, B, mitochondria, C, cell wall, D, chloroplast. 18. Some fish traveled from a saltwater to freshwater, or freshwater to saltwater, but still maintain the concentration of salt in their cells. This is an example of A, cellular injury, B, homeostasis, C, positive feedback, or D, mutation. 19. A student constructs several terrariums like the one shown. Each terrarium is exposed to a different amount of sunlight each day. In order to determine the ideal amount of sunlight, which of the following variables must be held constant? A, amount of sunlight, B, growth rate of plants, C, type of plants, D, wavelengths of sunlight. 20. Which of the following is evidence to support the idea that two different species might have a common ancestor? A. Many of their genes are the same. B. Their methods of respiration are alike. C. They use the same means of locomotion. D. The fossils were discovered in the same location. 21. A student looking through a light microscope saw this cell in cytokinesis. Cell in cytokinesis, cell plate, the nuclei. This cell is most likely from A. A bacterium, B. A plant, C. An animal, or D. A virus. .22. As part of an experiment to measure the decomposition rates of different materials, students put food scraps from the cafeteria in compost bin A and leaves and grass clippings in compost bin B for 6 weeks. Students in the first period measured the temperature in bin A. The students in sixth period measured the temperature in bin B. What is the greatest error in the students' experimental design? So we have compost bin A on one side of the school. On the other side of the school building we have compost bin B. A. The students put equal mass of material in each bin. B. Temperature is the only dependent variable in the experiment. C. There are too many uncontrolled variables in the experiment. D. The materials chosen decompose too rapidly. 23. Students using genetic engineering to develop wheat crop that is resistant to a particular kind of moth. How would they determine if the plants are moth resistant? A. Monitor moth populations in fields planted with test and normal wheat. B. Determine whether moths in test wheat can be controlled with chemical sprays. C. Determine the length of the moth reproductive cycle in normal wheat. D. Monitor the number of moth species infesting normal wheat. 24. Diagram shows a setup for a plant investigation. Which variable is most likely being tested? So we have a experimental setup here. 150 watt bulbs switched on for 8 hours a day. 150 watt bulbs switched on 8 hours a day. 150 watt bulbs switched on 8 hours a day. 150 watt bulbs switched on 8 hours a day. Bean plant, bean plant, bean plant, bean plant. 500 milliliters soil with pH of 5. 500 milliliters of soil with a pH of 6. 500 milliliters of soil with a pH of 7. 500 milliliters of soil with a pH of 8. Which variable is most likely being tested? A. Hours of light exposure. B. Plant species. C. Soil volume. D. Soil pH. 25. A population of mice is evenly divided into two groups, and each group is placed on an isolated island with no existing mouse population. Which statement best explains the difference in the mouse populations on island A and island B at the end of 20 years? So here's the original population. We have gray fur ones and brown fur ones. 20 years later, here's island A and the mice found there, island B and the mice found there. So, A. More brown mice were in the half of the original population that was sent to island B than the group sent to island A. B. Recapturing of mice on island A and island B were done differently. C. On island A, the allele for gray fur was dominant, while on island B, the allele for brown fur was dominant. D. Conditions on island B favored the brown-furred individuals, while both fur colors are evenly advantaged on island A. 26. In 1665, Robert Hooke observed a thin slice of cork under the microscope and presented a drawing similar to the one shown. Hooke called the structures observed A. Cells, B. Stomata, C. Chloroplasts, D. Root hairs. This concludes the first part of the Biology Semester 1 exam. Look to the other file to get the second part.